Greetings class, this is instructor John Hedin, and this is your How To History 100 Perspectives in History Library Guide instruction video. I've designed this video to show you how we use the library guide and our library resources here in this class. The purpose of this is to show you how and why proper academic sources are going to be beneficial to you both in this class and beyond. Before we get started on that, we need to address a pretty important topic. Now this is, for most of you, you may have used library resources or maybe you haven't, but one resource I guarantee everyone has used is Google. Google is a very common source for us to use to get information, to get facts, okay? But one of the things to note about Google is not going to give you very good information when it comes to finding source material. And I'm going to demonstrate why. So if we come back to our library guide here, we have multiple topics that you can pick for your project in this course. Either apartheid, drafting the Constitution, Mao's rule over China, or if you've reached out to me about your own topic, this will actually be very helpful for you. Now, in our library guide, we actually have starter sources for you, primary and secondary. But if you are used to using Google, I'm going to show you why that doesn't work out so well. So let's say our topic is the U.S. Constitution. If we Google this, the first thing we're going to see is a bunch of ads. Now, ads are not going to give us good quality information because, well, they're selling something. The other thing that we'll note is we have a lot of .coms here, okay, or .orgs, including my favorite website. Please stay away from history.com. It is a terrible, terrible website. But one thing to note about many of these websites is they do not have peer review, which means most of them just kind of write about anything. Other ones here, like things by .gov, like the U.S. Senate here or the White House, they're only going to tell you very brief, informative bits about the making of the Constitution. Not really any in-depth history. So let's take, for example, history.com. This is one I see students use too frequently. And one thing we note about this right away, there is no author, which means whoever wrote this did not put their name to it. Now, when we look at a secondary source, we need to make sure we have an author so we know who wrote it and how it went under peer review and what their credentials are. Because if we don't, anybody with any background could have written it. The other thing we'll note about history.com is history.com does not really tell us why something happened. It lists a lot of facts, okay? The Bill of Rights were 10 amendments guaranteeing basic individual protections. Okay, but why? Because an important thing of history is we ask, why did something happen? Not just what happened in the past, but why did something happen? And if we were to read through this, we wouldn't really see any kind of major why anything happened. It would just really be what happened. And to us, informative but useful? Not so much in doing actual history. The other problem with history.com, and I'm going to demonstrate this for you, is if we go to their homepage, it doesn't take long before we see something like this. Stuff about aliens. We all know the meme about the ancient aliens man. This is one of the reasons why I strongly avoid history.com and ask students to avoid it. It has conspiracy theories, stuff about aliens. Those are things we as academics don't really talk about because they are not true. And since we are looking at understanding how or why something happened in history, we need good sources. And if our source is going to be tied to something that is not exactly true, then that weakens our argument. Which brings us back to our library guide. The reason we have our library guide is all the sources here are going to be professional. They are going to have authors tied to their names. They are going to be peer-reviewed, which means other people of expertise in that field are going to look at it and determine whether or not it was done correctly. Now, if we are to look at secondary sources here for the Constitution, we have a few starter ones here, and these are really great, okay? These use things like EBSCO and the America History and Life database. Now, one link that you'll note on here is JSTOR. For the vast majority of professional historians out there, myself included, and academics in other disciplines, JSTOR is one of the best places to find secondary sources. So if we click on JSTOR and go here, now if it requires you to log in, you'll be able to log in through your institution. It'll probably bounce you back to the SNHU login page. You'll use your login name and password and then bring you right here. Now, the beauty of JSTOR is if you're used to using Google, this is not actually going to be that hard of a jump. You're going to find this fairly easy. So if we type in U.S. Constitution and do a general search, it's going to come up with a number of different things. Now, the one main difference between JSTOR and Google is you might have to be a little more specific when using JSTOR. Okay, so if you want to look up maybe James Madison and the Constitution, well, add that into your search bar and all of a sudden you'll start finding different articles. Now, all of these are peer-reviewed. They all have authors, and you should be able to download all of them. This is the beauty of JSTOR too. These sources are going to be very high quality. They also have other topics. So as your research evolves and changes, perhaps you'll find multiple sources here. And then on our sidebar here too, we can limit this to subject. So say you're very interested in the political science aspect of this history, okay? Then you would roll down here to find, political science. Click on the box, it will refresh, and then your search will have more political science aspects to it. These are our basic elements of our library guide. And as you choose between many of your topics here, I highly recommend you use these. One final thing, and this is a reason why I hope many of you actually choose JSTOR. If we select an article from JSTOR, and one thing students sometimes have trouble with is citations. JSTOR generates your citations for you. We are going to be using APA citations here, and it will also provide you a link for quick reference. I hope this video has been helpful to you in showing why our library guide has value and why you should use it. Thank you.